Welcome back to the Etceteras podcast. As always, I'm your host, Eddie Gonzalez. I'm typically with best basketball player in the world, Kevin Durant, who is now winless as captain of the Eastern Conference All-Stars. But yeah, he's out with a family matter at the moment, working his way back on the court. So we're joined by another good friend of mine, TJ Adesola, the head of Twitter Sports.
Head of sports at Twitter.
Okay, so I don't want to talk about like your whole journey. I got a bunch of other stuff, and I know your journey is amazing, but you've also told it quite a few times.
Yeah.
What does that mean, that job? Are you just like, you hand out verifications or like, because I know everybody thinks you do.
Everybody thinks I do. First and foremost, I don't think I've ever been a more disappointing feeling in my life. Like, I'm feeling that for Kev, you know what I mean? I'm from PG County, so I'll take that.
I feel like, yeah, it's equal footing.
You know what I mean? So what does head of sports at Twitter mean? I get that question a lot. So I oversee a team that sits across the U.S. and the Americas. We basically have three pillars. We provide support to every media publication in the sports ecosystem. We help them monetize on Twitter. Then we do innovation. Like Super Bowl, we put a tweet on the roof of SoFi.
Crazy.
We put tweets on confetti and those types of things. So our job is to break through, to hit the group chat, as I say, to do dope shit. So that looks like a bunch of different ways, but it's not just verifications or handle swaps. It's really strategic work that has a P&L associated with it too.
I feel like when I came across you, you weren't verified at that moment, which is really funny.
I'm still not verified on Twitter.
Yo, how are you? I don't want to speak on your competitors as you're here, but you're verified on the competitor, which is very funny.
I like to lay kind of low on Twitter. Yeah. I like to lay kind of low. I know who I need to know, and people who need to know me know me. You know what I mean? Because it's a lot of people. There's 3 billion tweets about sports every year. So to be associated with the machine that is sports Twitter, it's a big responsibility, fam. So I like kind of being low key.
So to fill in some of the gaps here, I'm obviously a Twitter GOAT. I'm one of them.
Humble too. Humble.
Probably on Twitter Sports Mount Rushmore. And TJ ignored me for quite some time. Nah, but we finally met and broke bread, and it's been dope ever since. Yeah. And it was one of those things like, I don't know why we hadn't, and I was kicking myself because we hadn't.
It took a while, but we knew of each other. I believe we followed each other on the platform. But you like a cool cat. You're not pressed at all.
We were just talking about this like off mic, to use the trendy podcaster term. But like, yeah, I'm definitely not like a chaser. Yeah. So it was never that. But once we linked, like shit almost instantly started happening.
Vibes,
so and then I met you, and I'm like, oh, he's cool. I rock with this.
I appreciate
dude.
the
I figured we were the same age group because it's a very similar vibe.
Yeah.
And we are.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's just been dope ever since we went to the Super Bowl together.
That's right.
Which we'll talk about a little bit. We walked approximately 10 miles to get out of there.
Yeah. This sounds very bromance-ish, dog. Like,
I mean, hey, look, that's pretty much my story at this point. It's just like my various bromances, and it's fine. I own it. I'm with it. But yeah, man. So obviously, you've risen up the ranks in your business. You just, much like me, you work at ESPN before kind of this. I don't want to call it a big break, but this is where you are now. What was like? I always feel like that's the dream job. I walked in there thinking it's the dream job. I don't want to shit on ESPN because it still is the dream job.
Of course.
But what was it that had you sitting there going, I might need to find something else?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you grow up being an OD sports junkie like us, it's like, I want to make it to a league or I want to work at ESPN. You know what I mean? I missed way too many left-handed layups to know that I was not going to play in a professional league. So ESPN was the North Star. So when I was at Georgia, I finessed an internship at ESPN, and then I graduated in the summer while I was interning.
Yeah.
So that turned into a full-time job, and like my first day, Magic Johnson's in the cafeteria, busting it up with people. Yeah. So just a really special experience. It's the mecca of sports in the U.S. Yeah. You go there, there's basketball courses, gyms. It feels like a college campus. So I was at home, and I still very much have fond feelings of my time at ESPN. But it's a machine, bro.
It is.
It's a machine. So, and if I may talk my shit a little bit, I felt really, really talented. I knew I was talented. Leaders were telling me I was talented, but that wasn't reflective in my title. Yeah. It wasn't reflective in my growth path. So I had to look in the mirror and say, all right, do I want to stay here and make $30,000 a year as a almost 30-year-old, or do I want to get a little equity and make some money and carve my own lane? Because over there, I don't think I would have been able to differentiate myself in a really smart way. So this role at Twitter popped up. I found the job while I was supposed to be working at ESPN. I was in my cube
That's how it
and
goes.
looking on LinkedIn, which I did probably like every day for a while. Found a job at Twitter, applied online. They hit me in 48 hours.
Yeah.
The rest is history.
Were you production side at ESPN?
So I started on the audio production side.
Okay.
Then I transitioned to operations, sales, and marketing, digital.
Sales and marketing, do you feel like that transitions? It must, right, to what you do now?
Yeah, so it was on the digital side. So we were talking about impressions and incorporating ESPN.com in your media mix for social. So on media plans, we would have ESPN tweets and ESPN Facebook posts, and people were buying that shit up. You know what I mean? So I was seeing that on a day-to-day basis. I'm like, wait a minute, there's a business in social media. And also there's this thing called equity that people keep talking about. I don't know what it means, but it feels like something I need. So I got the gig. So when I started at ESPN, I was making $27,000. This was in 2008. And I finished grad school. Bro, I was overdrafting, dog. I worked at Bank of America a few years prior, so I had a stack of overdraft protection cards. So like once a month, I'd be like, all right, if I eat at this Outback by ESPN, I'm probably gonna overdraft. But if I hit them with this card by Monday morning, I'm good.
Yeah.
It was the struggle bus, bro. Like we were paying $500 a month for rent.
You lived in Bristol?
Lived in Bristol.
Whew.
Mini Las Vegas. So after I was at ESPN for about 3.5 years, and I got my offer at Twitter, and all in it was over 6 figures.
Oh yeah, you out of there.
I saw that, I was like, yo.
Oh, so you wanted to make money
and equity.
It was
different. It was different. It was very, very different. I threw the overdraft protection cards in the trash. Like, we living different now, baby. You know what I mean? I'm getting the chips and the guap.
Yeah.
Before I was just getting the chips.
Yeah. I feel like our stories are a little similar in that building, in that I felt restricted when I was there, and I understand that they're as buttoned up as they are. This is a massive multimedia conglomerate across Disney, across everything they do there. And so, like, there's a way they do things.
That's right.
And they tell you when you get there, they're number one in almost every single space they operate in. TV, digital, social, everything. And there's a reason.
Yeah.
But I felt like, as somebody who wanted to make things and make my own things, it was only so much available there. So I feel very similar to you, and I can't believe you lived in Bristol.
Yeah.
My first weekend onboarding at ESPN is called Rookie Camp.
Rookie Camp, of course. You had the folder and the pen and all that. Yeah.
So they actually emailed me. It was like, hey, if you don't want to come this week, you don't have to, because it's going to be a blizzard. But I had already booked the Airbnb. Like, I was already planning to be there. So I'm gonna just go. And so if you're unfamiliar with Bristol or Connecticut in general, when they say blizzard, they mean blizzard.
Oh, yeah.
And so I get there and I just start work. There's no camp. They've canceled it. It's like, all right, we'll just start training you. And then they come tell me, like, hey, if you don't want to commute home, we'll get you a hotel. There's a hotel kitty corner from the campus, and they have a relationship with this hotel.
That's right.
So if you're gonna get snowed in at work, they will put you up. And so that's how likely it is you will be snowed in at some point in your time there. So I enjoy everything that it offered me, and I think, like you said, it's the dream for so long. It always reminds me of The Wire. You remember on season 1 of The Wire, they finally get the clone pager, and they've spent like 5 episodes trying to get this clone pager, and then they go, and they had this shot, and it just pans out, and then one of the guys says, celebrities are always smaller in person. And that's how I felt about ESPN.
Yo, I'll tell you, man, I think we were there at an interesting time too, because today companies, particularly within media, are so intentional about culture marketing.
Yeah.
Like, how can we get close to the culture? Like, how do we get proximity to this? At the time, like that wasn't a thing. Mm-hmm. They weren't like creating content with sneakers and like, when's the Gunna album drop or whatever. Like, that was a very different time, like in sports and media. Today, the opportunities that these new cats get relative to what we're extending to us, very different, dog. Very different.
So I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
Just about like culture and social media. I know this is something you prioritize at your role, and for Twitter is key because Black Twitter.
Of course.
We often see that be the beginning of conversations and trends and just the way people are using social media. I was looking at a tweet earlier. It was about there was some joke, and it was somebody said it's giving. Mm-hmm. And it's like, man, I hate that Black Twitter gave that to y'all because this and that. But this is where things come from. As you got going at Twitter, how key was it for you to implement that and kind of show the world that? Because it does spark these conversations. We always said, I worked in social at ESPN and a couple other places, but we always said, conversations start there and they start Reddit. Mm-hmm. And that's why, because it's those people setting the trends of how to use social media. Right. How was that received as you started trying to push that in your role at Twitter?
Yeah, it's a good question. I didn't know the power in it because it took a while for me to like decorporatize myself. Yeah. Like, I'm wearing Banana Republic at the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's not funny. Why everybody?
No, it's wild funny. It's like, very funny.
And then like year one, I'm like, I could wear J's every day. I could wear jeans I could toss a blazer away. So it took a while for me to become like tech forward, because some of them dudes was wearing flip flops and shorts on a day-to-day basis. So once I learned that the culture was very much allowing of you being your true self, that's when I really took off. Because there would be meetings where we'd be talking about marketing to a specific segment of the audience, and I would say, no, that's wrong. Like, I can show you on Twitter. Mm-hmm. I would legitimately pull up tweets from people within Black Twitter, and I would say, we're going to get dragged if we don't do this the right way. So to feel like the power of Black Twitter or of the culture coming to meetings with me each and every day, that's a powerful feeling, dog. A real powerful feeling, because Twitter is like a real-time insights engine. If you rock with the Gunna album, I'll know. If you like Certified Lover Boy or hate it, I'll know. If you were rocking with Donna 2, it's all in the timeline. So that kind of empowers you to have informed dialogue at work in a really, really, really interesting way, particularly if you have the proximity to culture that I do and my team does.
Yeah, I think I came across Twitter, and Twitter is like a huge part of my story in so many ways. And friends I've met, obviously in business and work. I came across it at a journalism conference, and I remember at the time,
you remember which one?
It was at San Jose State. Okay. So this is maybe 08, 09. Okay. And this is probably the most formal journalism thing I ever did in my whole journalism
You were suited up? Tied on?
No, but like just even going to this conference and just taking these seminars. And so the very first one was about Twitter. And it's about spreading news on Twitter and communicating on Twitter. I'm like, what is Twitter? Yeah. And I remember me and my friend, I just felt like I was on the outs. I had huge FOMO. Like, I feel like I was missing out. And so I joined, and
was Bansky your original username?
No, I had a different one. Okay. So Bansky is my friend loves Banksy.
Yeah, of course.
And I kept saying it wrong, and he let me say it wrong for months and months and months. Funny. And my running joke was like, I could beat Bansky. You didn't know he's incognito. You never know. And he let me say it. And finally one day he's like,
that's your Twitter. That's crazy.
But by then I had made it my aim. I did all the thing. And so it was like I didn't understand how to use it. And I did the same thing everybody did when they joined Twitter, is like going to the store, right? But what I realized was, I mentioned AIM, it was similar to AIM, the away messages, just kind of like putting my mood out there. And I realized like the power of that tool very early on. And as I was writing, it was like a promotional tool. Yeah. But it became so much more, and just relationship buildings and all of that. And I always wonder with you, like, how active were you on Twitter and on social before you got into social?
I was pretty active, and I used it the same way my homies would. Like, I'm tweeting about games. I'm tweeting about players I like, players I don't like, music I like, music I don't like. Missing every Saturday on the sneakers app, like the whole thing. But it changed when I got to Twitter. It changed. There are some words that I used to tweet a lot that I no longer tweet
Same.
Anymore. But one of the things that I love about following you is you just tweet whatever's on your mind.
Yeah.
And a lot of people feel the pressure to have a hit record each time they tweet. Bro, it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't.
You just tweet, and one of them things is gonna go. Yeah. You had a crazy one the other day.
I deleted. I think.
Yeah. But
I think it was about Jared Allen.
It was about Jared Allen. But that's the thing. Like, you just have to let them things go, dog.
Yeah.
And the streets is gonna catch one of them eventually.
Yeah.
You know. But ideally, you just tweet how you feel and tweet about things you observe and you like and you don't like. So I used it in a very organic way. I try to maintain like the I work at Twitter voice. That shit is hard though.
Of course, you work at Twitter.
Yeah,
because you're not.
Yeah.
You. I'm guessing you have the burner where you tweet like you used to.
I don't know. I can't confirm or deny
hey,
that.
we're pro burner here, so don't worry. But
Heard you. Say less. Yeah, I can't confirm or deny whether I have a burner or not.
my thing with Twitter is it is your thoughts.
That's right.
Like, that's the currency on Twitter is your thoughts. Whereas on other platforms, it's how you look, it's what you show, and it works perfectly for me. Where I just have these random thoughts throughout the day, and I just need to spit them out. I need you to know that I hate this song because it just came on.
That's right.
And I can't do that on IG, on TikTok, on whatever, because that's all visual.
Yeah.
You know, and there's like a method to that. And it's just never been me to just, even now, like, as Instagram is valuable to me, it's just like, I posted pictures the other day and I went with my friend, my man Jordan, and we took these pictures. And it was really like, to be honest, I wanted to show that I had these shoes and I really like these shoes. And so anyway, he's like, pose. I'm like, bro, I don't, just catch me. I'm not gonna hit my, cause it's not me. But Twitter, I could just let my shit off. Cause I think we're gonna get done with this and I'm gonna let a tweet off about, I can't believe TJ pulled up to me with the Travis ones. Like, what a sicko. What a sicko. Like some shit like that. But it just worked. And, I've watched it work for so many people in this industry and other industries where like you're able to really build up if you focus on that. So
my most like thoughtful, intellectual, like critically thinking friends are obsessed with Twitter. Mm-hmm. My friends who aren't obsessed with Twitter. Yeah. I'm not saying there's a correlation there, but the people that I really like know and respect this up here, they articulate their thoughts so well on the platform. And I think that's an art. It's really difficult. When you see an empty tweet box, bruh, that can be really intimidating.
Just think about when we were getting them shits off with 140 characters. And just like,
you know what I mean? Like,
you couldn't thread them together.
The pressure to be concise, you couldn't thread. So people, I use Instagram, I use all the social media apps. There's something special about actually articulating thoughts, joining the conversation, starting trends. Like you said, Black Twitter moves culture. And oftentimes you see the culture matriculate across different mediums 2, 3, 4 days later. You know what I mean?
Meme culture, I think, there's roots back onto like Tumblr and Reddit or whatever. But I think it really got going, especially for people of color who weren't really on Tumblr and Reddit for Twitter. Yeah. And it was just as simple as, I forget what that font was, but it was like white text on a funny picture. But that shit took off. Yeah. And then we would see my auntie with it on Facebook or wherever, But it was there. It was like the jokes would start there. I can't tell you how many times I've had family members hit me on various platforms, text me like, yo, I seen this tweet on, this is you, right? This is your account? It's a wild ass tweet that ended up like on a Facebook group or some shit.
Yeah,
it's like,
nah,
that's not me. But it just, I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for Twitter, even as it annoys me. We were talking about it on the last show, like, I feel like I can't say shit because it's just like, I don't want to say attack because it doesn't bother me, but it's just like, it's a thing to like one up me.
It's gone
too far. So I wonder with you, like, you've been around since they always talk about the glory days of Twitter. You say whatever. And now it's really like, you know, they will come at you if your ideals aren't this box. Like, do you think it's better or worse?
I think I'm class of 2009, I think
I'm 08, 09, around there.
Yeah, that was a very different time.
Very different.
On the platform. It's tough. It's tough, I think, because people feel a level of restraint when they're tweeting. And sometimes the best content, the best takes occur when you don't feel that restraint. Mm-hmm. But then there's some people on the internet that suck. Some people on the internet suck.
Yeah.
And they should feel that friction. They should feel that level of restraint if they're talking about something that they shouldn't be talking about. So I think that there's something to be said about the glory days, but those were also wild times.
It was. There's pros and cons, and the thing is, like, a lot of this shit, people wouldn't say this to you in the real world.
That's right.
They might talk amongst friends like this. They wouldn't say that to you in the real world. Not even if you're not a tough guy, like they're just generally not seeing other people like that. And I think it just goes to, you can say whatever you want.
Yeah.
In the real world, you really can. But in the real world, you could also consequences for saying the wrong shit. So I just think, you know, we're adding that element a little bit to Twitter now.
Yeah, it does give me a chuckle though when a KD or somebody will actually respond, and it's like, no. You know, I've been your fan for life, dog. Yeah. I love you. You know what I mean? Those are some of my favorite moments. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I love the homies in the WNBA, because they be dunking on these dudes, bro. Like they do not care, and oftentimes those cats will delete their account. Like Joy Taylor at Fox Sports, she be coming at people, dog.
Oh yeah, she be clapping at.
Yeah, and they fall in line. They fall in line because they realize, like I'm not on this type of time. You know what I mean?
I was talking with Kevin recently in like a chat, and they were like, "Yo, why do you always respond to the hate?" And he's like, "I don't always respond to the hate, but I can't respond to all the truth because you don't always have to verify the truth. Some of that shit is just true. There's no reason to verify that. You know what I mean? So yeah, sometimes you come at me and say something that I know is not true. Yeah. I might just have to tell you it's not true. So I kind of understood better when he said that. But yeah, man, Twitter's a trip, and it's its own little world. And you know, I don't know if I'll ever be able to stop. I think it's just so ingrained.
Keep tweeting, bro. Hey, keep tweeting. Keep tweeting. I was fortunate enough, man. I got to take Jack, our former CEO, and our current CEO, Parag, to Nigeria 2 years ago, which is where I'm from. And I would just nerd out and ask him, like, yo, what did it feel like when you sent that first tweet out? Yeah. What did it feel like at South by Southwest when they rolled it out, when Ashton Kutcher was talking about you on Oprah? And to sit there and, like, listen to, like, some of the things that he did assume would occur, and then the evolution of it, like to where you meet Kevin on Twitter and you're sitting on this couch talking to me, like it's crazy to see how this platform that's word based has evolved into something that is so magical. I mean, I discovered everything about Russia and the Ukraine last night. There were spaces with 50,000 concurrent people, bro. So the utility of our platform is so important, especially during like real current events or sports or news or politics, entertainment. An album just drops. It's pretty special to see the superpower of what our platform does.
Yeah, I want to say you're welcome for what Kevin and I did for Spaces in the earliest form.
Y'all got it popping. Y'all got it popping for y'all had that thing busting, dog.
Kevin went and did it on his own, and you know, Kevin could be, I don't want to say reckless, but he can have his fun on there. But y'all power to just completely destroy a competitor in one fell swoop with that very function was hilarious to me.
I think that live social audio is a feature that will continue to be successful and live across multiple platforms.
Yeah, You're giving the company line, which I appreciate, and I wouldn't lead you off the cliff. But I know that I closed that one app and then I just never opened it again.
Dude.
So it is. That's me. I'm not speaking for you, but
you're really, really good at spaces. You and shout out to the Elite Squad too.
Yeah, shout out to them.
Get it popping.
Yeah. And the program you guys are running right now that's just further stimulating what's going on in spaces. I think NBA conversations, they're just, in a lot of ways, this is the new radio. This is the new sports radio. Yeah. And I'm from Sacramento, so there was a guy named Carmichael Dave out there, and he still does radio out there. And he was just a caller. Mm-hmm. And he called, and he was funny enough on the calls for years that they finally said, yo, just come in.
Wow.
And then just gave him a job and on and on. And I feel like we're in the dawn of that. Like, at some point, these people are so good at this audio platform that it'll lead to other things.
One of the homies that I think you put me on to reached out to me via DM, and he was like, yo, I got a radio gig as a result of me hosting spaces.
Yeah.
You know, it's really special, man. Like, my job is to work with media properties and athletes to be consultative and like to use Twitter in meaningful ways. But I feel like I can't do that without tapping in with the community. I can't do that without knowing who Jasmine Watkins is, without knowing who Josiah Johnson is. Mm-hmm. I can't be effective in my job without understanding who the community is that powers all this amazing conversation, in addition to the NBAs and NFLs, the ESPNs. So when I think about spaces, it truly is like the aggregation of all of these amazing thought leaders and his voice. It humanizes y'all in such an incredible way. Like, y'all are laughing. Like, you just relate very different. It hits very different when you hear the person's voice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's an element that, you know, as we were saying with other platforms, they're visual, they're, you know, and that leads to obvious like marketing opportunities and things like that for people who have grown their followings in ways on there that, you know, even in the earliest days of like me growing a following, I was like, how do I make this lucrative other than click-throughs? Just my thoughts. How are my thoughts lucrative, and on and on. And I think this opens up an avenue for a lot of people who are wondering the same thing. And, you know, some of these spaces, guys, they're like appointment viewing, and they're just 100%. Continually putting thousands of people into these rooms. And I believe his name is Jason Temps. He got a job with somewhere. He was doing a Lakers spaces every night. And the Lakers are the Lakers. So.
Is that the one that Russ's brother joined one night? Did you see that?
I seen that. That's not the same show, but that's the other thing. Spaces brings back that element of early Twitter with, yo, I could just tweet such and such celebrity, and they're gonna say something back. You know, I could hit Wiz Khalifa, and he might, he's gonna tap tweet me and just talk to me about his song or whatever. And like, I feel like that element is a little bit back with spaces, and it's been fun. It's an interesting expansion, and you know, every time I sit there and go, I don't know what else Twitter can do. Twitter does another thing.
Do you feel? Are you ever nervous or mindful of who's in the audience when you're on the Spaces stage, or do you does it just feel like you talking on the phone with the homies?
Once they start like recording you and running your stuff back, I'm a little mindful of that.
Yeah.
And I talked about it last time we did the show with Kevin. Like, I don't want me being a dumbass to fall back on Kevin, because I'm an idiot in a lot of ways. But, you know, I don't always speak for him, and I think he's fine with me doing whatever. But beyond that, I actually kind of like dislike it when Taylor Rooks shows up and then the guy goes, yo, Taylor, and starts screaming at her. And then I'll message Taylor like, yo, my bad, and stuff like that. Or I don't like when they do it to me either. Like, I'll get in the space and say, yo, there's Bansky, pull up.
Yo, so that's actually a product consideration. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're a thing, if you're popping, if you're you should be able to slide into a space and just kick it in the audience and not be worried about. If you Taylor, you should be able to pull up to a space and just kick it. Yeah. And right now, if they see your little avatar, they're gonna shout you out.
Or you end up accidentally tapping on like the raunchy room, and it's like a screenshot of this person's in there. Like, what was you doing in there, bro? Yeah. And so like, it's like, I'm interested to hear that is a consideration you guys have. But I don't want to talk about Twitter forever because it's just a Twitter convo. I want to talk about your poppin' life because ran into you in LA.
That's right.
You are a busy man. And you explained to me, this is also something I want to talk with you about too. you explain to me that this is very much part of your job. It's networking, building, maintaining relationships. Yeah. So you're kicking it all week, Super Bowl. But does it feel like work when you're doing this? You living a hell of a life right now.
I appreciate it, man.
Are you getting told you're famous?
Nah.
Big time.
Once I start to feel like I'm popping a little bit, you pull up and tell me that OVO got you tickets to the Drake show. Yo, this man here, I say, yo, you trying to pull up to the Drake show? You're like, nah, OVO hit me, and I'm good plus 18. So if you want to pull up, it's cool.
I want to talk about this, man.
You got an out chain or nah?
I want to talk about this.
You don't have an OVO bands?
Shout out to Noel, who
they had OVO shout out on the pod. This is different.
He listens to the show.
This is different. He's Noel, shout out to you, baby.
Shout out to Noel. They have always been, obviously, have a great relationship with Kevin, with Rich. They have always
been.
The
40 episode was incredible, dog.
Yeah, and it like dream come true to even do that, right? So they've always been OD friendly to me, and I've met Mr. Morgan with them.
Do you own Nocta?
I'm not seated or nothing, but I know the guys.
Just a matter of time.
I don't need the, I don't need that. But definitely looked out for me in LA.
Yeah.
But you know what my thing is like, for all the people that go, yo, big time. Then I go to like a Drake show in LA, and it's like, I'm just some guy.
That was a fascinating
very humbling
time. Yeah.
Very humbling.
But to answer your question, I was thinking about this when I was coming in, and like a couple weeks ago, I had a meeting with somebody on our executive staff, Roger Goodell, and his team. Mm-hmm. And then later that night, I was at Last Lap. So in my mind, I'm like, yo, so I have like the range with which you have to show up, particularly in like a role that's kind of corporate, but it's culture forward, and it's a little public facing. It can be a little exhausting, you know, because if I'm at the table with Goodell and the NFL execs and my execs, I have to show up in a very different way. Yeah. And I have to be really, really sharp. At the same time, if the homies hit me and they're like, yo, we at Lap, like, I got to be me. Yeah. And I can't be like on my like corporate buttoned up shit. You know what I mean? So it's the range with which I'm required to show up can be pretty exhausting. Because at the most fundamental level, I just want to kick it with the homies. Mm-hmm. But I also understand that each interaction I have can impact work in one direction or another. I can have a great discussion with ESPN, and they may say, hey, next week we're going to try something out based off of our discussion. Yeah. So it's a pretty interesting dichotomy that I exist within socially.
So Super Bowl weekend and followed by All-Star weekend. Yeah. I can't believe that's going to be the standard now. It's not cool. But these are huge weeks for you as you balance these relationships, and you're obviously outside, had to be outside. What was it like? Was it fruitful for you? Because I go to these things, we talking about it then. You actually, it's funny, as much as I hate being out and networking, you actually introduced me to somebody really interesting out there.
Yeah, I did that on purpose.
Yeah, and it was like, and me and that person actually had the conversation like, yo, I hate doing this shit. And then we're like actually like hit it off or whatever.
Yeah. You got his contact?
Yeah. And so, but it's just this thing.
They really gonna want to know who it is, but we can't tell them.
It's fine. It's just this thing like, I don't know if I'm antisocial or I'm just an asshole or whatever, but is that something you had to warm up to in your role of just like maintaining all these relationships and being this forward facing and being out as much as you are?
Yo, so I'm a fake extrovert for sure. When I need to flip the switch, I can be on and do all that. That's me too. But it drains me, dog. So oftentimes, like before I do a panel or before I hop on a show or hit a meeting, sometimes I'll take a shot of the tequila, dog. Like for real, just to kind of get my shit loose and because I realize how much I'm gonna have to pour in to those social settings. Yo, Super Bowl, like we were on for 3-4 straight days till the early hours in the morning, and you wake up and it's breakfast and lunch, and you go back to it. So yeah, I get a little bit of social anxiety for sure, but that's part of the job. I also I'm really particular about not being one of those internet dudes that's corny in real life.
That is my thing.
Fam, we meet them all the time. It's like, yo, You don't keep the same energy. Like, you're very different on the timeline than you are in real life. And I'm a cool ass person in real life.
Yeah.
And I need to make sure that I keep that energy consistently, because I never want to be that guy that hits like a dud in real life.
So
you know what I mean?
you are how old?
Wow, dog. For America?
What, so
I like to keep that low, baby. Come on,
because
man. I'm young at heart. No, I'm 38.
Okay, so I want to like set the scene here
Sheesh.
with this. Like,
I didn't know this was gonna go. We talking about, man, you want my social security number too, dog?
my point is, we existed in the world before the internet.
Facts.
And kind of like into it for a while, like to go outside and do shit. And so I'm not opposed to internet things, but yeah, like you said, I'm used to being like a normal guy.
Yeah.
Outside of this shit, Twitter is probably like the most obnoxious version of me. But yeah, I'm super cognizant of that though. Like when people meet me, you know, I don't want you to think I'm not necessarily not that, but I'm not one of the weirdos from the internet. It's like a whole different person. So I try to keep the same energy too.
I was really pleased. Like, it was when we did it was a Knicks game, and my brother Pops pulled up.
Yeah,
and
cool
we
dude.
started talking old like
Pops
NBA stuff.
Menzabanzu,
Yeah,
for those basketball fans. Yeah.
And y'all immediately hopped in the hoops
I
bag.
rock with you.
Immediately hopped in the hoops bag, and I was real pleased to see. I'm like, oh man, it's like really, really loves this hoop shit. Like he's really like, you flipped a switch and you were right. Y'all, we were talking all types of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was dope. And Black Trey, same way. Trey in person hits the same way. Josiah hits the same way. Like most of the people that like we know and respect in the timeline are super cool in real life, which makes me feel good.
So do you feel like you have to keep real life off of your socials? Because that's the kind of thing I'm going through. As I be more forward facing, it's like, all right, I gotta scale back a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm so intentional, dog. I'm so like everything that I tweet or I publish or I post, I'm very intentional about it for the most part. And then every once in a while, like I'll throw some of my IG story and delete it after a few hours. But apart from that, like I'm really intentional. Like if I post it, I want people to know about it.
Yeah. Well, like, so I came back from Super Bowl and me and Kevin Langton, I was telling him how it went and stuff. And we're just so anti like the vanity and fame side of this shit. And then like he was like, you know, he hates it. There's no escaping it for him, though.
Yeah.
But at least if we go out in New York, it's like 40 people.
That's right. That's
low.
right.
LA, like nothing's low. Nothing's low. It doesn't help that we went to like the 2 hottest tickets of the weekend. Yeah. And it was just most outside. But it is a little crazy when you're at like, so this mythical Drake show. Hear about it as soon as I go. Hear about before I'm even in town. Like, yo, heard about the Drake show? I knew like I was going. I wasn't trying to be an asshole with everybody. And I actually thought it was gonna be a really small thing. And it's been this gigantic fucking event, right?
It was positioned as this intimate vibe.
I thought it was a club. I thought we were gonna be in some clubs somewhere. We were gonna be in Delilah's or something.
And you walk in and it was a thing, dog.
So I forget what the place is called, but it's like an event center. And
shout out to H Wood, by the way. Shout out to H Wood.
So they have this whole entrance thing, and everything's free. It's a Drake show, and you go outside and you go into this. You think it's going to be this small venue, but there's this gigantic stage in the middle, and it's this whole circular thing. And it had to be 3,000 people, 4,000 people.
Yeah, and everybody.
And the stuff, shoulder to shoulder. And then like, so I get there wild early because I was told like, yo, try to get here early because.
What time did you get there?
11:30.
No, I saw you in the lobby.
Yeah. We ran each other before. Yeah. So, but I was kind of like nudged, like, yo, get there as early as possible. Because it's gonna be hectic, and I think they oversold. So I was like, all right, cool. And I don't want to be the guy that's like outside bugging.
Yeah.
So I did get there early, and it was already packed. Drake didn't hit stage about 1:30.
That's right.
And so I kind of like find a spot to chill, and we were trying to get the homie in, and it was a whole thing. But anyway, you know how this. And I didn't want to be that guy either.
Yeah.
Because you hate to be the guy outside the club waiting. And you know you're getting in, but you're looking like that guy out there.
Did you invite him to pull up with you?
It's a long story that I don't want to tell on air because he's going to know it's about him.
That's tough.
But
say less.
He almost got it.
Say less.
So we're there wild early, and then it's like you're watching this parade of people show up.
Yeah.
Yo, is that Eminem's daughter? Like, what's, and it's like, yo, that's Cardi B and like, all this shit. And I just felt like, I just want to see the performance and go, you know. But it was like, it was very Hollywood and
extremely, which was a bit of a surprise because of the venue. It was the hottest. It had to be the hottest ticket.
I mean, besides the game, which we also went to.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, I guess you're popping. You went to both.
You were there too. So I was pretty much the plus one, dog. I appreciate you, man, for blessing my life. If it wasn't for your tweets, you know what I mean, I might be at the crib right now. You know?
Yo, same.
Yeah, facts. No, it was a good weekend though, man. It was really hectic to go from that
to Cleveland.
Because it was hot as hell in LA too.
It was crazy.
You get to Cleveland, snowstorm, like flights are getting canceled and whatnot. So the Super Bowl All-Star, you've been to both, obviously.
Yeah, I've been to All-Star before,
I always compare it to, like I say, like Super Bowl is wine and All-Star is like tequila or cognac. You're gonna get drunk off of both of them, but it's a very different type of drunk. You know what I mean? Like two very different types of weekends, but equally as intense.
So I think the NBA needs to do similar to NFL. They need a rotation. Miami, LA,
keep
Vegas, keep it warm.
Shout out to Indiana, Utah, Cleveland. Charlotte was supposed to get a game and did not.
Right.
Atlanta would probably be on the group that would have the game.
That's right.
Shout out to them. Historic basketball cities.
Yeah.
But, this is supposed to be an attraction in the way that for the NFL it is. Like, this is the biggest weekend of the NFL every year. 200 million people are watching. Thousands upon thousands are coming to the town because this is even happening. Make it a celebration.
Yeah.
I did not go to Cleveland. I only heard horror stories.
You heard a lot about Uber wait times and all that. Yeah.
Freezing cold. A lot of canceled parties, a lot of canceled events. Boardroom had great brunch. I heard about. Saw a lot of dope pictures.
Boardroom had the Rock Nation brunch.
I heard.
NBA also.
I heard.
Y'all put a room together. Everybody was in that room, and it wasn't too packed. People were in there closing business deals. People were in there catching a vibe. It was a good vibe, yo.
Shout out to Rich, Flynn, the whole team who had that vision because I think it became exactly what it was supposed to become.
Yeah, it was the perfect room, bro.
Yeah. So tell us about that Twitter suite. Packed this HBCU schools and all that. Like, you guys are doing dope stuff. And the NFL Twitter suite was cool, but I think this was much more interesting than me and you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Nah, only so interesting. We brought up Bansky from Twitter. That's only so interesting.
So I mentioned earlier the importance of community, and an extension of that to me is like, what's the point of shouting my homies out on timeline or shouting out to people who drive massive NFL Twitter conversation or massive NBA Twitter conversation if we don't delight them with really dope experiences? So we created this thing called the Tweet Suite, and the objective is to say, yo, you're really dope on Twitter, and I don't know if NBA Twitter would be the same without you. Actually, I do know NBA Twitter would not be the same without you. Pull up to the finals with us or pull up to the All-Star weekend with us. So you are obviously you're in our Spaces program, our Spark program, and you've been riding for the app for a long time, so it only made sense for us to have you out there. It was you, Taylor Brooks, Short Taylor, and a few others. Drewski put up.
Got some nice shoes.
Yeah, got some nice shoes and all that. So
I left my Beats pill, which
we'll run that. Don't worry about it.
When I got home.
Don't worry about it. You didn't even tell me.
I opened up my suitcase like.
We'll run that. So for All-Star Weekend, the NBA has been really intentional about involving HBCUs in All-Star Weekend, which I love. Shout out to the league for that. There was a group of HBCU interns that were busting their ass for NBA All-Star Weekend. And as fate would have it, they didn't have tickets to the game. So with probably the week of All-Star, a suite serendipitously became available. And Kelsey Taylor on my team, who leads our NBA partnership, she was like, TJ, a suite's available. I have this vision that we should host a Tweet Suite one, but use it to host the HBCU students who have no access to the game. And I knew that was an incredible idea. So we did this, we did like a two-pronged thing where we allowed HBCU students to ask questions to NBA All-Stars, and they answered their questions in real time, which was incredible. But then we had a tweet suite. We surprised them. We gave them envelopes, said, open the envelope, tweet suite, you're invited to the NBA All-Star Game. It was incredible. And what ended up happening up there was pretty special because we started texting the homies like, yo, we've got this incredible group of HBCU students. And it wasn't just Howard and Morehouse and Spelman. It was Wilberforce, and it was just other HBCUs that may not get the same love as Howard tends to. And we hit the homies. Drewski pulled up, Taylor Ricks pulled up, Maria Taylor pulled up, AJ from 106 Park pulled up. It was a who's who, and people were excited to come to the suite and just interact with the HBCU students. And it was such a vibe, dog. It was black. It was beautiful. It was lit. And many of us missed Steph's 18 threes. How many threes did he hit? Which was kind of a blow. But it was a good vibe, man. Our CFO pulled up, Ned Siegel. Shout out to Ned. And cards were exchanged and numbers were exchanged. And the hope is that some of those students we can bless with internships after the fact. So to me, again, to bring it back full circle, if I can't impact the community like in really, really meaningful ways, like my job is trash, you know? So
nah, that's dope. And that's like for it to happen that organic and just happen.
Yeah.
It's just there. I mean, the person I mentioned earlier that you introduced me to at Super Bowl, we're both talking about how like introverted we can be.
Yeah.
Just how off shit we are. And he's like, look, I hate to be the guy that gives advice, but this shit does matter. Networking and
he told you that.
Yeah, and it was like,
it was funny. What a guy, by the way.
Great dude. It was funny because it's like, you're not the only person who's told me this. And I feel like I've actually told people that too. But this is a great example of like, yo, sometimes you just have to get into the rooms.
That's right.
And then when you're in the rooms,
that's right.
It's up to you what you make happen. And like, you know, like we were saying earlier, dealing with, I wouldn't call it fame. What I think it is people see what we do.
Yeah.
So because they see it, they associate that with like, you know what my job is.
Yeah.
If I was a production guy at Fox or whatever and doing just as well, you wouldn't know because you don't know what I'm doing on the day, but you see what I do. So it's like that's kind of one of the things you have to do with that situation.
One of my favorite things about like I really rock with the way you move because you're not pressed, bro. Mm-hmm. Like you're not a thirsty cat at all. And I think that's why you get a lot of the opportunities that you get. Like you're never on my line like, yo, can I da-da-da? Like never. Which is why it was so easy to be like, yo, you should be pulling up to the tweet suite. Yeah. You know, so and I try to be that way too, like really intentional about not being like just pressed to be outside or pressed to be all up in the video. And I think that bodes well for us. But yo, because of my role and because of my proximity to the culture and the community, there's a lot of entitlement out there, dog. Mm-hmm. A lot of entitlement. And I hate people who feel like they deserve shit, even if they haven't worked for it or earned it.
Yeah.
Or people who feel like they deserve shit and they're just thirsty for it. So it's refreshing when you come across energy that's like, yo, I'm just going to put my head down, do the work, and good things are going to happen. To that point, though, putting your head down, doing the work means showing up in those rooms and going to those spaces.
That's part of the work,
yeah.
which I had to come to that realization. Yeah. And like, I've never been thirsty is the word you use. This is the word I would use too. But I do know that closed mouth doesn't get fed.
That's facts.
So there's a balance, and I'm probably way too far on this side of the balance.
Yeah. It's changing though.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, I watch somebody like you who I bet when you took your job, you never imagined you would be a person people see.
Nah, of course not.
And how you navigate that. And the same with this person. I really don't want to out him because we had a long convo about how he hates media. But it had the same convo. Like, you know, it's part of the gig and he has to do it.
Yeah.
But it can also be extremely useful to be in these rooms. So it's just very interesting. But what is next for you? Are you it's hard to say now that you're a lifer anywhere, right?
Yeah.
But are you just so locked into Twitter and what you guys are doing there that's all you see, or you see more beyond that?
I have an incredible job, bro.
Yeah.
I love my job. I hope my boss is listening. I love my job. But all jokes aside, I have a really special role, and I don't take that for granted. Mm. At the same time, I do think that anyone should be mindful of progression, development, growth opportunities. So that's always going to be a goal of mine. Like, how can I continue to impact the culture? How can I continue to be a change agent and still like progress and climb the ladder? And I think there's a lot more of my story to be written outside of TJ and sports. Yeah. So more to come. Part of the work that gets me excited is, so Twitter's opening an office in Africa in the next 6 months in Ghana. And I'm Nigerian, as I mentioned. So to be able to like touch the continent by way of my job, that's cool. That feels like legacy work. You know what I mean? Yeah. So Twitter's allowing me to play like a real like thoughtful role in that rollout, which is cool. I mean, ultimately, bro, like I just want more people who look like us to have the opportunities that I have. I mean, I want to say MGrads tweets about this a lot. Joe does too. A Drake album will drop, and then you'll see all these social media managers from teams, leagues, clubs tweeting out these lyrics. And if you like pull back the curtain and you look at who's tweeting out the lyrics, they look very different. You know what I mean?
It's something that's happened quite a few times where people get a look at who is running social teams, and it's like, hey, what are you doing? And it's not to say that white people or people from outside the culture or whatever phrase you want to use can't be knowledgeable in certain things. Of
course not.
But it's to say that we want to make sure that people who push these things benefit from these things. Yeah. And it's like I think Twitter does a great job of that. I think one of your competitors, TikTok, does a good job at that as well. It's like if you're sparking conversation, they will at least highlight you. So we saw I think the famous case is like the On Fleek girl.
Yep.
Everybody runs with what she created, and it's just a thing that she doesn't get to benefit from. Yeah. And I think you guys do a great job of that. And I think when I first started working with Kevin and talking with Kevin about working, that was a key for us. It's like we had this picture of NBA draft coverage, and it was like the nerdiest group of people you could ever think of. And I actually think they're great at their job.
Yeah, sure.
But it's like basketball coverage should not look like this.
100%.
Like I want people who sound like us, look like us, who are us, to not only do these jobs, but to know they even exist.
So to me, you're 100% right. The responsibility is twofold. One is, yes, the content should be inclusive, and we have a responsibility to make sure that it feels that way. But two, the teams that are publishing this content, the teams that are covering hoop, they should be reflective of the people that they're covering. Yeah, they should look like the people that they're.
Always been a sports media thing.
100%, yo, and that shit drives me crazy. I have the luxury of walking through these league hallways, these partner hallways, and oftentimes I leave disappointed because it's not that there's one person that looks like us. Many times there's nobody who looks like us. And I look at the timeline, I'm like, yo, you sounded like my cousin, dog. You know what I mean? Like, so I have a burning passion to make sure that those dynamics change. There's no reason that every other club doesn't have a social media manager who looks like us, male, female, black, brown, whatever. And that's the case. Like fresh out of college, you can find like young people who understand brand voice. And if they don't understand it today, you could teach it to them and they understand it tomorrow. But there's no excuse for this shit to look the way it does, man. Like it's very monolithic. It's very homogenous. And that shit got to end, bro.
I was at a company. I don't want to out them in that way, but I remember vividly, this is 2018, and me and my colleague are trying to convince this is a small company, so we're trying to convince who's essentially the owner of the company, we should cover these two people. And they just did not know who they were. And we're like, we're telling you, like, these two people matter. I'm telling you, we need to highlight them on our content. And it was like a drag them out brawl, and they finally conceded. And the two people were Meg Thee Stallion and DaBaby. And like record hits the very next day after we highlighted them on our stuff. And it was just like, this shouldn't have to be done. Like, you should trust the people you've put in these positions. And that's not the only company I've been where that happens. Yeah. And it's all the way up. And then what also happens is it's like, you'll be on a social team and say, yo, this is a funny joke we should use for the thing. And then you got to explain it to 20 people in the room. Whereas if you walk in with the Ted Lasso joke, I don't watch Ted Lasso.
That's right. Ted Lasso is an incredible show.
I bet it's hilarious. Whatever show, right? Whatever show, right. Succession. Whatever show that I just don't watch that I wouldn't call cultured. But I go, yeah, cool. Like, I trust what you're saying.
That's true. Facts.
But if I bring the Fresh Prince joke in here, I have to fucking walk you through the synopsis of Fresh or Bel Air now. Yeah. I have to walk you through why this screenshot from Bel Air is hella funny. Yeah. Because you just don't know. And it's not even that I have to walk you through it, or that is the problem. It's like, you don't trust me, so I have to walk you through this. Right. Why don't you like, we have the same job. Who are you to not trust my knowledge here? And it happens a lot. It happens a lot, and it's like, just because you don't understand doesn't mean the person you're talking to doesn't. And stuff like this happens in media rooms all over the place. And like I said, one of the key things is we wanted people to even know that these jobs exist.
Yeah, that's the thing, dog.
You know,
that's the thing.
Because it's like if I had explained to my brother 10 years ago, yo, you can do a podcast and you could make, more than the warehouse guy or whatever it is you're going to do, it might sound crazy, and it might just seem like something that doesn't even exist for somebody who looks like my brother or my son. But now it's like, you can see it. Like, I sit next to Kevin Durant every week and we talk about what he's listening to. And it's a job. Like, it's a job that people care about and you can do. I think the joke that I always see is, when we had MySpace, we were coding. We were doing six-figure jobs and didn't even know that was a thing. Just had no clue. And I just think the more we know that those opportunities are available, that alone opens up so much.
It's so funny you mentioned the MySpace example. That's a clear indication that it's not a capabilities issue. Like, we have the capability, we have the capacity to do this. We just need access to the opportunities.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, far too often, those opportunities live within a silo. And that is not specific to these entry-level roles or these social roles. I mean, you think about, you're fortunate to have the proximity to Rich, who's one of the best with respect to investing and this VC stuff, and him and Kevin have just done an incredible job. But even when you think about investment opportunities and the VC shit, and being able to hear that there's an opportunity to invest in Coinbase in their Series A or their seed round, these are conversations that many of us aren't privy to. But if somebody's like, yo, I'll tell you later, but put 10 stacks in this thing called Coinbase, and I promise you, you about to get it busting 5 years from now.
Trust too, right?
Yo, you're gonna do it, dog. But if we don't have access to those conversations, we just putting that shit in our savings account, or we throwing it the same place that our parents and our grandparents did, and it's not gonna work as hard for us. So the conversation around access is one that is just really important for all of us to have.
Wow, deep. Yeah. I mean, I somebody explained to me before, like, there are families that have this accountant that they've trusted, and now this accountant has a firm, and they trust that firm, and they've had that for generations. And those people tell them what to do with their money. Whereas, like, my son or me from my father, like, was like, yo, you do your taxes at H.R. Block.
Yeah.
Which is like, there's nothing wrong with that, but we are missing access that we would have not had otherwise. So I love when I go to this industry shit, and then it's like, this is the guy from Twitter. And this tall Nigerian guy walks through and says, yo, what's up? Because that doesn't always happen.
That's right.
And so it's beautiful to see.
A company like Buzzer, right? Like, to be able to meet a founder like this early in the process, you feel like you're going along for the ride with the homie Bohan. So that's something I talked to Roz Gold is really, really dope at, like, this, like, investment NFT stuff. She knows it really well. Chris Lyons and Andreessen Horowitz. So these are the types of discussions. My mom used to just throw it in the savings account, dog, and you're getting 0.00001, or even better, she and the homies would have this pot that they would each put money into each month, and every 6 months you would get the pot. You know what I mean? And then you rotate, which it's not collecting insurance or interest. It's not working hard for you. You're just delaying money that you would have if you saved it. So the mindset is much different with us because we're a bit more liquid than I think our parents were and the previous generations. We just have to be really, really, really intentional about finding access to these opportunities.
I mean, access is everything. I mean, it's crazy. Like, not to get in this deep financial conversation, but it's like when you get around more money, you see how easy it is to make money. And then the hard part was getting to be around. And it's, I'm happy that those doors are opening, and then people are more interested in opening them than now. For people who, like you said, look like us, sound like us, come from where we come from. And that's always kind of one of my goals as I traverse through there. So it's dope to hear that it's one of yours as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was fortunate, man. Like, Jack is an incredible leader and human, and he's an altruist. And guys like Rich and Mav Carter and all the Spring Hill folks, like, they're so intentional about making sure that people who look like us have access that we haven't had in the past. I love the Rich and Kevin dynamic, yo. And I walked around this building, and I was telling Sarah, I'm like, yo, first of all, y'all are grown as shit. This is crazy because it's happened so quickly. And two, it's like Baskin Robbins in this joint. Like, all different flavors, all different shapes, sizes, and it's incredible. This is what the shit is supposed to look like, dog. You know what I mean? And
Hollywood Tees, he came in here and he said, yo, can I get a drink? He immediately started asking for stuff. Well, we got him. We found him something.
That's facts.
But it's funny. I tell the story before, and I might have told you, but I came in here. This is over a year ago now. This is November 2020, probably. And we were just open. It's just mid-pandemic, so we can't really function in here. I think Rich was using it as his home base for the most part, but Kevin.
Rich was sleeping in. Rich moved in.
Man, he might be, man. As much as he be grinding, he might be. It's not a bad spot.
Facts.
But it was Kevin was getting into the building for the first time, and it's mid-pandemic, so we can only do so much in here. But yeah, it was us. Like, we toured the building, we checked it out, and then we were in here almost a year to the day, and it was just buzzing. There's 20, 30 employees, and Kevin's
this
like,
is nuts.
Kevin walks in and was like, yo, there's a real vibe in here. Like, he was really geeked about how it's grown and being able to see that. Like, I think when I got to the company, there might have been like 6 people. And so to watch that grow exponentially as fast as it can, it's like, it's dope to see. And it's dope to see how diverse it is in here.
Yo. As soon as I walked in, the first person I see was a black woman. She was giving me vibes. She gave me like a half handshake, not really. And then, like, I look around and it's like just this wonderful melting pot of people, which is why it hits, which is why it works,
Yeah. So, all right, before I let you go, I want to ask one question that I do ask. We pretty much ask for everybody, including Kevin. What are you listening to right now?
Yeah, so I love the Gunna album, dog.
There you go.
I love the Gunna album. Did you watch the Donda 2 stream?
I did.
Okay.
I like the song with Migos.
There's some joints on there. There's some joints on there. Generally speaking, I was a fan of the visuals, actually. Yeah. Kanye is kind of a beautiful, crazy, maniacal genius. So.
Yeah, I wrote on Boardroom. I think he's like, I'm not even sure if he's selling us music anymore.
Yeah.
He's selling us a spectacle.
Yeah.
He wants you to see this entire thing.
Yeah, for sure. So Gunna's heavy on rotation right now. I love Afrobeat, so I'm listening to Wizkid and Burna Boy heavy. I've been on my R&B bag too, man. So I'm not going to divulge what we listen to with Red Wine, but I got my Red Wine R&B playlist.
Yo, that's for the select few.
Yeah.
You gotta find out.
You know what I mean? But the Gunna playlist is popping. I'm still spinning CLB to be honest with you. I think that's my pocket. Right now.
We're leaving Super Bowl. So I don't know if you've ever been to SoFi. It's a pain to get in. You have to be dropped off like kind of far.
Yeah.
And then this night, obviously, it's Super Bowl, so it's even more of a pain to get out. We had to walk quite a ways to get to the sprinter that Twitter was nice enough to get for us.
That's right.
And it's a group. It's a huge group. We used every seat.
A good group too.
A great group.
Mm-hmm.
And so my man, he falls asleep, which I do not blame him because I was ready to sleep too.
Yeah.
Snoring the whole nine, and then Gunna comes on and wakes right the fuck up.
You talking about me?
Yes, you.
I don't snore, ladies in America. I don't snore. I was knocked out, dog. Were you awake the whole time?
Yeah, but I went home and like, it's like, yo, what's going on tonight? I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I fell asleep. I had an early flight the next morning, so I was out. But I had did my partying for that week. But
it was a
I
good
was
run.
like, I know your ass is tired.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
Now the Gunna joints hit. We didn't even talk hoop. There's a lot to talk about the back half of the season.
Because you asked me this. Are you attached to any teams in that sense?
So I grew up in the DC area, but now I root for tweets. To be honest with you, like I just want the storyline that's going to generate the most conversation on
So
Twitter.
tell us, okay, in that sense, tell us why the Brooklyn Nets are probably going to win the championship this year.
The Eastern Conference Finals is lining up to be special. If we can get that Philly Brooklyn matchup, that is going to break the internet, and I cannot wait. Now, granted, that's not to dismiss the teams in the East that are playing well. Heat are playing great basketball. Obviously, the Bucks are playing great basketball too. But if we can get Philly and Brooklyn on the collision course, that's going to be special.
Shout out to Kevin. I would love for him to play the Magic 16 times and just win the championship as easy as possible. But as like a sports fan, I would definitely love for them to do the Bulls, Bucks, Sixers gauntlet.
Yeah,
I would love that. And then I guess the Warriors.
Yeah,
the Steph KD finals would probably break every algorithm you guys have.
That's what we want. I mean, I guess betting money would have Warriors Suns out west, and then
CP's out 2 months now.
Yeah. I don't think that's gonna slow them down that much.
I mean, as long as they get him back for the
Yeah.
playoffs, they'll be fine. He'll slot right back in. But yeah, I mean, season's been hectic, obviously, on this side, and there's a lot going on, and then the big trade, and I think Kevin did a great job of giving his honest thoughts about all that when he spoke. I know people were waiting for our pod, thinking we were gonna mudsling. I keep mentioning our mutual friend here, but what we were saying when we were talking, this person works in sports, and it was like, the closer you get, the more you realize, like, it's like whatever. Like, you can only get so wrapped up into this shit. And that's kind of how I feel about the trade and all that stuff. It's like, at the end of the day, this is where these guys work.
That's right.
They just have to keep working.
That's right.
All the personality stuff or whatever, that happens in every job. I'm sure you love everybody at your job.
Of course.
But, I'm sure some days you go in there, it's like, this fucking guy.
That's right.
So, that type of stuff happens at every job. And I'm excited to see this Nets team on the court.
Yeah, healthy.
Whenever that may be, and healthy, obviously. And I think Kevin's return is imminent. It's been reported as such. I'm not reporting it. I think Ben's return also is imminent. Just depends on conditioning. And then this mandate stuff with Kyrie. And it sounds like that's coming soon, too. So,
Is a healthy Lakers squad in the East scary to anybody? Say AD has perfect health the remainder of the season.
I mean, he's a couple weeks away. There's this version of the Lakers that they just pound everybody in the paint. Yeah. And they're really hard to deal with. I still think if they get in, they can give a lot of teams some issues.
Some problems,
I seen the spaces the other night. It was like LeBron's not a top 10 player anymore, and these guys had a couple thousand people in it. You seen that?
Yeah.
This guy, I didn't.
There's
know
a lot of crazy hot takes in that room.
I feel like I know most figureheads of NBA Twitter. I had never come across some of these accounts, which is not to say like I'm big dog and I should have.
Right.
But I was just surprised to see this bigger room with unfamiliar faces, and they were lighting them up.
Yeah.
And so, but I still believe like LeBron's one of the best players in the league. Mm-hmm. I still believe that if they get in the playoffs, he made the game-winning shot in the All-Star game. That was cool.
Yeah.
They're still a force to be reckoned with. But I mean, I think this late in the season, we kind of know who's who.
That's facts.
Healthy Nets, ideally. Suns, Warriors, Bucks. I think the Heater right there knocking.
I think people forget about how incredible of a defender Ben Simmons is too.
So we can wrap on this because I've been saying this in spaces on Twitter basically since the trade, even before the trade. I know Ben is a little bit of a meme now, and for good reason.
Sure.
I think, the pass in the Hawks game, I don't think he'll ever live that down. There's the 0-point playoff. A lot of reasons to go, all right, here's a joke. But it's because we have not seen him play basketball in 9 months.
Yeah.
It's real easy to forget that he's one of the best defenders in basketball. He's 6'10", crazy athletic, and all the great things he does do. And now he's playing against one of the greatest scorers of all time. I don't want to gas him some guy, but some people have him as the greatest scorer of all time.
Sure.
Kyrie's one of the most skilled players of all time.
Of course.
And the load he'll have to carry is probably smaller than it's ever been in his career.
Yeah.
We should see an incredible Ben Simmons.
He has this really special, uncanny ability to just break down the defense, dog.
Yeah.
And once he gets to that second level, you crash on Ben Simmons, or it's a layup, or he's dunking on you. You mean to tell me he has an option to kick it out to Kyrie, or to kick it out to Kevin, or to kick it out to Seth Curry?
Yeah.
It's going to be scary hours for real, man.
They're set up nice. I think that was one of those weird trades where both teams probably walked away like, all right, I feel like
we feel good. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it remains to be seen, and we'll have to see it all happen on the court. I think James is probably going to play this week, so we'll get to see that. But I think both teams walk away and go, our team makes a little bit more sense now.
Yeah.
For the Sixers, they didn't have Ben. So they've added an all-star, and all they've lost is a starter level guard and then, one of their backup bigs.
That's right. But I can't let you I'm not trying to take over your pod. I can't let you leave or kick me out without talking about your favorite follows on Twitter. I need to know. You've been on that app for a long time. So it can be athletes, it can be people within the community. Let's give some women some love too, because I feel like oftentimes we do these lists and we forget some of the dope women on timeline.
I think Taylor Rooks is a great follow. She can be funny. I think she's in a place where she's almost too important now to kind of let her hair down and talk her shit. But Joy Taylor's a good one.
Yeah,
I like how she claps at people when they come at her kind of loud. My guy Cam Hay, who's been on here before, he just is a way of spawning conversation, whether it be about music, sports, or whatever. I like following people who, I've said it before, like if you diss me but it's funny, I'll follow
cool with it.
You have a sense of humor. I'll rock with it. If your diss is just like corny, I might block you. But I like to follow people like I don't necessarily agree with, stuff like that. I follow a lot of people. I follow a lot of people new too.
I love that because I think old school Twitter kind of gets, you kind of get locked into your usual routine on the platform, but there's a lot of like young and up and coming people on the platform that are doing really cool things.
I've over the last year I followed a lot of Nets accounts. Nets fans.
Oh, okay.
So we have Shane and DJ. I wish I'd had their ats in front of me, but I think they're dollars. Well, I like to follow a lot of like tape football accounts that are just breaking down like O-line play and shit that I don't understand. You mentioned earlier everybody in the elite. Trevor is a funny follow. He's a little more industry now. So he's not as funny as he used to be, but he's a funny follow. Obviously, Josiah, his journey is fascinating too. So, I like to mix it up. I have that problem where if I say something, I just get cussed out for an hour. So I just live in my mentions. But I like to mix it up. Who is your follows?
The athlete wise, man, I'm a big fan of Ja Morant.
Ja's hilarious.
He's great on Twitter, man.
Ja's
he's
hilarious.
Great on Twitter.
I like Trey on Twitter.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, Kev. Love how the OG Jamal Crawford uses the platform.
Yo, shout out to Jamal.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jamal. Dope guy, and he just wants to talk ball. He's mainly when everybody wants to talk his shit. Shout out to Jamal.
He's great on the platform. Simone Biles is hilarious. So there's a lot of cool athletes within the community, bro. It's like it's you, it's Josiah, it's Jasmine Watkins, it's Taylor, it's Joy, it's
Jasmine's hilarious.
Wob. Shout out to Worldwide Wob. Dragonfly, of course. Like there's just so many people who've been doing their work for a really, really long time. And you're starting to see people pop up on podcasts and shows. That's what makes me the most happy. When you can say, I got these tweets off and it turned into a job. Astasia works at Nike now, you know, and it started by her getting off fire tweets.
So all right, we'll finish on the other way around. Who was that follow that made you go, oh, this is crazy. This person follows me. This is nuts.
Maybe it's tough because some of those accounts don't manage their own shit.
Yeah.
I think Barack was one that I got excited about, but you convince yourself that it might not be him. You know what I mean? Wow. I'm single, you know, so there have been a couple times where I've been like, yo, this might be my wife for real. You know what I mean? I'm gonna keep it a shout out to whoever that is.
You want another drink?
So, you know what I mean? That's what I default to. I'm like, yo, I might find love on this app. Twitter owes me love, dog. Twitter owes me love. So shout out to any and all young ladies respectfully who followed me on
Jack
that.
followed me. That kind of was like,
Jack probably knows who you are, dog. He definitely knows who you are.
I don't want to pat myself.
He's been in your spaces.
Sure.
Jack definitely knows.
I'm pretty
Jack
sure.
is one of those people who's super attentive. He knows who's doing what and who's moving the timeline.
Genie Bus. That was kind of crazy.
That's a good one.
You know her bio is like, don't ask for tickets.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
So I think that's probably up there. Obviously, you know, the Kevin one it did what it did.
Do you remember the day, not to sound like a fanboyish, but do you remember when you got the notification that Kevin Durant followed you?
Yeah, we've told the story on the pod before about how we've met, but I was at work at one of the companies I was talking about earlier, and thought it was fake.
You screenshot it? You screenshot it?
Screenshot because I had to show some people like
right.
And you know, for as much as we talked about throughout this whole podcast how unthirsty I can be, I immediately DM'd him like, yo, if you want to come on my show,
that's
I'd
crazy.
to have you on the show. And I told him before, I don't think I've said this out loud. The day he DM'd me, a year later to the day, was when we announced the podcast.
Wow.
So
the same day, a year later?
A year to date. I have the like DMs and I still know it. So
that's a 30 for
shout
30,
out to Twitter.
bro.
Shout out to Twitter. Who better to have?
What if I told you, huh? That's a 30 for 30, bro.
Yeah, man. When y'all ready to do the commercial, you know, we'll talk to Rich.
We'll Rich and Flynn. I'm sure she's
Rich
listening.
and Flynn, and we'll get it going. And, you know, I do gotta say, I do have a bone to pick. You've had tweets in Times Square and on the top of SoFi Stadium.
You ain't made the Summer Jam stage? You ain't made the Summer Jam stage?
I know I'm a little like, you know, vulgar.
Yeah,
and I delete my shit.
We're a family safe platform, bro. You know what I mean? So be mindful of that next time you get these tweets.
Hey man, I'm just saying if the tweets go on to Golden One Arena in Sacramento, where I'm from,
you'll be good with that.
I'm guessing I should be up there.
You need to tweet something to exist. I mean, there's some type of manifestation.
I deleted all my great tweets that, like, you know, the Times Square thing, which was, I'm gonna give you credit. You don't have to take credit. I'm going to give you credit. Yeah. Incredible idea.
Thank
Just
you.
about
Thank
you know,
manifestation,
putting things into the universe and making them happen. So, I hope to see my shit on whatever gigantic building you guys project tweets onto next. Do you remember when Kanye did that for Jesus?
Wow.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I hadn't even thought about that. Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Kanye, the innovator.
Yeah, that man's a genius.
He's another person who's used your platform really
well. Yeah, really well. Interestingly enough, he's him and the folks who he's worked with. He also has an eye for really talented people.
He does.
So
it might be his. It's weird to say anything is his best talent.
Yeah,
but that's up there.
And what's interesting, there's been a decent amount of turnover and attrition with the folks that he's surrounded himself with. But even the re-ups, just really talented people always around that dude. Anyway,
great guy. But yeah, man, TJ, thanks for being here, man.
Sir. Thanks for having me.
We got to get up in the city one time before you get busy again. I know you playoffs is gonna be a hectic time for you, and we're gonna have to kick it. We'll bring you back. Kevin's around.
I would love that, man. And let me know when you get the OVO chain, man. I'm trying
to. Yo, I'm about to get a Twitter bird chain. I ain't messing with you.
Let's do it.
All right, man. Etc.